Welcome to worship with Eliot Unitarian Chapel. I'm the Reverend Barbara H. Gaydon, and I am honored to welcome you as Eliot Chapel's lead minister. We are so glad that you have joined us from your couch, your porch, your car, from your kitchen, doing the dishes, however this service reaches you. May it nourish your spirit and remind you that you are a precious being and you are not alone. If you are new to us, we are an intentional community whose shared work is to welcome all races, genders, and all sexual orientations. We strive to welcome people of all creeds and beliefs, all economic circumstances, and all types of families. Our vision is to create a just world through vibrant, beloved community. If you would like to connect with us and learn more about our congregation, please look for the information at the end of the service. Welcome to Eliot Unitarian Chapel. We come together once more. We are not bound by walls, but by our longing and hope for a new day, for more health, more love, and more freedom for this world, more respect, more grace, for more time to rest, more beauty and more reverence for the beauty of every being. We light this chalice, symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith, and our commitment to join with all those who work and pray for these things to come forth.
We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know within, and we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. It will be hard, we know. know we will. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. We are going. Heaven knows where we are going, but we know within. And we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Oh yeah, yeah. 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 Yeah, yeah.
Our reading today is a classic of literature. It is a work of fiction, and it is has become so iconic. The characters have become archetypes of human behavior. I refer, of course, to Winnie the Pooh. You can see that our story, our version of it today, is with the decorations by Ernest H. Shepard, because we have standards. Let's begin. This is chapter 2, in which Pooh goes visiting and gets into a tight place. That's better. Now let me get my book here so that I can read it for you. Edward Bear, known to his friends as Winnie the Pooh, or Pooh for short, was walking through the forest one day, humming proudly to himself. He had made up a little hum that very morning. Tra-la-la-la-la, 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 rum-tum-tiddle-lum-hum, diddle-diddle-diddle-diddle-diddle-diddle-diddle, rum-tum-tum-tiddle-lum. Well, he was humming this hum to himself and walking along gaily, wondering what everybody else was doing and wondering what it felt like being somebody else. When suddenly he came to a sandy bank, and in the bank was a large hole. Ah, said Pooh, rum-tum-tiddle-lum-tum. If I know anything about anything, that hole means rabbit, he said, and rabbit means company, he said, and company means food, and listening to me humming and such like. Rum-tum-tiddle-tum-tum. So he bent down and put his head in the hole and called out, "Is anybody home?" Rabbit was apparently very careful about whom he let into his home. And he was suspicious of this person calling, but after some back and forth and making sure it actually was Pooh and not someone else, he said, "Oh, well then, come on in." So Pooh pushed and pushed and pushed his way through the hole, and at last he got in. Rabbit said most hospitably, "What about a mouthful of something?" Pooh always liked a little something at 11 o'clock in the morning, and he was very glad to see Rabbit getting out the plates and mugs. And when Rabbit said, "Honey or condensed milk with your bread," he was so excited that he said, "Both." And then, so as not to seem greedy, he added, "But don't bother about the bread, please." And for a long time after that, he said nothing, until at last, humming to himself in a rather sticky voice, he got up, shook Rabbit lovingly by the paw, and said that he must be going now. So he started to climb out of the hole. He pulled with his front paws, and he pushed with his back paws. This is what it looked like. And in a little while, his nose was out in the open again, and then his ears, and then his front paws, and then his shoulders, and then, "Oh, help," said Pooh. "I'd better go back." "Oh, bother," said Pooh. "I shall have to go on." "I can't do either," said Pooh. "Oh, help and bother." Now, by this time, Rabbit wanted to go for a walk, and finding the front door full, he went out by the back door and came round to Pooh and looked at him. "Hello, are you stuck?" he asked. No, said Pooh carelessly, just resting and thinking and humming to myself. Here, give us a paw, Rabbit said. Pooh Bear stretched out a paw, and Rabbit pulled and pulled. Ow, said Pooh, you're hurting. The fact is, said Rabbit, you're stuck. It all comes, said Pooh crossly, of not having front doors big enough. It all comes, said Rabbit sternly, of eating too much. I thought so at the time, said Rabbit, only I didn't like to say anything, said Rabbit. That one of us was eating too much, said Rabbit, and I knew it wasn't me, he said. Well, I shall go and fetch Christopher Robin. Christopher Robin lived at the other end of the forest, and when he came back with Rabbit and saw the front half of Pooh, he said, silly old bear, in such a loving voice that everybody felt quite hopeful again. There's only one thing to be done, he said. We shall have to wait for you to get thin again. How long does getting thin take? Asked Pooh anxiously. Well, about a week, I should think. Oh, but I can't stay here for a week, said Pooh. Well, we'll read to you, said Rabbit carefully. And I hope it won't snow, he added. And I say, old fellow, you're taking up a good deal of room in my house. Do you mind if I use your back legs as a towel horse? Because, I mean, there they are, doing nothing, and it would be very convenient just to hang towels on them. A week, said Pooh gloomily. What about meals? I'm afraid no meals, said Christopher Robin, because of getting thin quicker. But we will read to you. Pooh began to sigh, and then found that he couldn't because he was so tightly stuck, and a tear rolled down his eye as he said, Then would you read a sustaining book, such as would help and comfort a wedged bear in great tightness? So for a week, Christopher Robin read that sort of book at the north end of Pooh. And Rabbit hung washing on the south end. And in between, Bear felt himself getting slenderer and slenderer. And at the end of the week, Christopher Robin said, Now. So he took hold of Pooh's front paws, and Rabbit took hold of Christopher Robin, and all of Rabbit's friends and relations took hold of Rabbit, and they all pulled together. And for a long time, Pooh only said, ow, and then, oh. And then all of a sudden he said, pop, and just as if it were a cork coming out of a bottle. And Christopher Robin and Rabbit and all of Rabbit's friends and relations went head over heels backwards, and on top of them came Winnie the Pooh, free. So, with a nod of thanks to his friends, he went on with his walk through the forest, humming proudly to himself. But Christopher Robin looked after him lovingly and said to himself, Silly old bear. Thus ends the reading. Let me offer you a blessing. This one was written by Jan Richardson. If you would enter into the wilderness, do not begin without a blessing. Do not leave without hearing who you are. Beloved, named by those who have traveled this path before you, do not go without letting it echo in your ears. And if you find it hard to let it into your heart, do not despair. That is what this journey is for. I cannot promise this blessing will free you from danger, from fear, from hunger or thirst, from the scorching of sun or the fall of the night. But I can tell you that on this path, there will be help. I can tell you that on this way, there will be rest. I can tell you that you will know the strange graces that come to our aid only on a road such as this, that fly to meet us, bearing comfort and strength that come alongside us, for no other cause than to lean themselves toward our ear and with their curious insistence, whisper our name. Beloved, beloved, love. Amen.
Hi, I'm Steve Menerick. Every month, Eliot Unitarian Chapel shares our offering with a local organization that helps promote our mission of courageous love and compassionate action. In August, we're sharing our offering with the Kirkwood Area Every Child Promise, or Ketchup for short. Among Eliot's stated goals is to create a more just society, that is, to promote equity. Ketchup was started a few years ago in response to a racial equity report issued to the Kirkwood School District. It's my firm conviction, grounded in science, that if we want to achieve equity in society, it has to start with early childhood, even before kindergarten. And that's just where Ketchup's mission lies. Ketchup engages with our community's youngest learners and their families to make sure every child in the school district gets the start that they need during a critical formative time during those children's development. Ketchup helps with preschool scholarships and with information and assistance about resources in the community. It provides access to Promise Place, which is a clothing and supply closet for young children and their families. And the one thing that I'm probably most excited about is that Ketchup is not standalone, rather it's wraparound. It connects with other wonderful local resources, including Kirk Care, Parents as Teachers, the Kirkwood Public Library, the Magic House, other faith organizations, the school district, businesses in the local community, all to provide a truly holistic support for children and their families. There are instructions for giving on your screen. Please give generously, and thank you.
When we last met, things were looking pretty good COVID-wise. Then I went on a vacation for the month of July. This appears to have been a mistake. A lot has changed in that time. I'm so grateful for the time off. I always am, and this year seemed especially sweet. as America started opening up again. There were children's softball tournaments, restaurants, concerts, Shakespeare in the park. We could travel and hug our families again. And around the edges, something else started happening. I couldn't help watching the daily updates from the Center for Disease Control about the progress of the Delta variant in Missouri and St. Louis, areas that have a large percentage of unvaccinated people, half at the current moment. I couldn't stop looking at the charts showing more and more counties turning red or very high, which is what that red rating means. And St. Louis, too, is now red. Infection levels are as high as they were in January. And we thought we were at the end, and we are not. We're still in kind of the middle. Some of us feel stuck. A lot like Winnie the Pooh in our story, when you think about it. We can see the blue sky and feel the breeze on our fur, and our rear ends are still stuck in the hole, and Rabbit is hanging tea towels on our feet. These characters have become archetypes, so they capture something about humans that transcends time. What do they do in this situation? They blame each other. Rabbit blames Pooh for eating too much. We might call it fat shaming today, or the dreaded personal responsibility argument. Pooh blames Rabbit for having such a small entrance to his home. We would point out issues of accessibility or structural inequality. Both arguments have some truth, but neither one will get Pooh out of that hole, nor will yanking on his paw and forcing the situation. And it hurts, by the way. They even call on a higher power, a wiser, more powerful being to come and rescue them. But Christopher Robin can't think of anything either. He tells them that they have to wait. Are you feeling this? Are you feeling stuck or stressed out or tired? Recently, a colleague called this anxiety management fatigue. Anxiety management fatigue. So what that says is it's the stress and the wearing on you that when you're telling yourself you have to keep your stuff together. Keep yourself together. Stay positive. We who have cheerfully told each other to live one day at a time, every day is a gift, take life as it comes, go with the flow, live in the moment. We have had it with all of that spiritual hoo-ha. Let's see some progress here. I want to make plans for Thanksgiving, or for that matter, next Tuesday. Now, Pooh, being a bear of little brain, which is an interesting phrase given that fear overpowers our cerebral cortex, the frontal lobe, that, among other things, helps us to make actual sense of experience. Pooh, the bear of little brain, thinks that he will not survive. Now, in the Buddhist tradition, this is called writing a story. When you getting caught in your story. The Buddhist tradition says that when you take in small amounts of information in the midst of great uncertainty and decide what's going to happen, you are getting caught in a story of your own making. And we all do this. Sometimes, if someone gets a cancer diagnosis, it's easy to decide, well, okay, that's it, I'm dead. Uncertainty is so hard to deal with. And it's so hard to deal with that we decide how things are going to go, even if the story is the worst possible outcome. The story feels real, and we're captured by it. The practice of meditation actually is designed to keep the mind in the present moment, to pull us out of the story that we are making up about the future. So what we're experiencing right now, well, it's a setback. It's a setback. And people tell stories about setbacks. And one story that I hear is that we're going back to square one. We're right back where we started. And you know that that's simply not possible, right? We have a vaccine that has been proven to be enormously effective. And we've learned so much and we've come so far. we just can't go back to where we started. We just can't. And another story that we're caught in is that, oh, maybe this will be forever. It will never end. Now, you think about it, that's also not possible. The very nature of life is change. This is a setback. But I think we need more than just this bit of information about, where we are with vaccines, etc. We need more than just a little bit of information to counter the story that we're telling ourselves about it. We need a kind of practice. Meditation and other mindfulness practices are designed to keep us in the present moment, to pull us out of the story that we're making up about the future. In writing this sermon, I decided to just Google living with setbacks, just to see what it might turn up. And Google, in their wisdom, decided to make a slight correction to my search words. They thought that I must have meant overcoming setbacks and completely ignored the first word, and they spat out thousands and thousands of articles about overcoming setbacks. I mean, who wants to read about living with something uncertain and unpleasant? Who wants to live in a place that you don't want to be? Who wants to do that? Well, not anybody here. So they say, we're going to help you win this thing, buddy. #winning, #success, #you got this. But since we honestly really have no choice but to live with this setback for the moment, I decided that maybe I should write my own list of practices. So here are Reverend Barbara's 6 top tips for living with the surge and staying human. Okay, you ready? Tip number 6, practice self-compassion. Be compassionate toward yourself. And that means, in some instances, to develop a robust practice of whining. Really, practice a robust practice of whining. Who does whining really well? He actually can't help it. You and I shouldn't help it. I think the pressure on us to stay positive 24/7 does us a disservice. It makes us feel ashamed for being unable to maintain a constant stream of positivity. We are rewarded for how well we are handling something, and not how much we are experiencing it emotionally and being human in the process. The book of Psalms has a whole category of whining prayers. They are called lamentations, and they go something like this. Dear God, this sucks. Where are you? Where are the good things you promised us? And did I mention, this sucks? Now, lamentations do resolve things at the end. By the end of the poem, you usually get something like, okay, God, I know you're going to help me. I know it'll be okay because you are the mighty God, which always sounded a little bit like kissing up to the Almighty. And maybe that's true. But maybe it just took a while for the psalmists to get to that hopeful place. There's a gap, you see, that they didn't write into the poem of getting here to there. The psalmists also knew that they had to tell the truth first. They had to get to that place. They had to tell the truth of what was happening, that this is hard. So tip number 5, I would say, practice compassion for other people. Also hard. People are angry right now. Have you noticed this? The anti-vaccination people are angry, feeling their personal freedoms are being threatened. The others, which include me, are angry that so many people think that their personal choice does not cause any harm to other people or to our country, or even to themselves. I get angry about this. So what do? Well, you could pray for people. Now, hear me out on this. Whatever your theology is, I think this can work for you. I received this instruction as part of my 12-step recovery work. If you have somebody in your life, or let's just say in the world, that you are really angry with, they say, make it your daily practice to pray for them. Now, note that this is not a prayer to make them see the light, straighten up, get it right. That's not prayer. That's not really a prayer, but kind of asserting the awesomeness of your own opinion. It is something that would only make us more rigid. And prayer, no matter who or what you are addressing, even if nothing, prayer is about softening, loosening, regaining balance, being able to live in the truth and not think that you know everything. I was told to pray that a person that I was angry with would have enjoyment and happiness, that they would have every good thing that I want for myself. Now, the part that really did me in as a good Unitarian Universalist was the instruction to pray this for people, pray for these good things for people, even if I didn't mean it. What? Well, I was desperate enough to try it. And I can tell you, it worked. I was less angry. I suffered less. I saw the person, in glimpses at least, as a fuller human being than the part of them that was making me so angry. I offer it to you as a possible tool. So if you try it, let me know what you think. Tip number 4, practice gratitude. Now, this tip may actually seem to contradict the first one of robust whining, but it is actually complementary. Because, I'm not talking about looking for the bright side or the lesson in all of this or why this whole mess is actually a good thing. No. That might come later, but that's a sort of Olympic level of gratitude. I'd say start out small. Start with small, obviously nice things. Flowers growing alongside your walk, a kind word from a stranger. And make a list. Make a list every day. This list, remember, is just for you. So it doesn't have to sound impressive or even very spiritual. It could include the dopey reality show that you're hooked on that is getting you through the day. Be grateful for that. Put it on the list. And the more you look for things that you actually can sincerely feel grateful for, the more of them that you'll notice. It's true. Okay, ready for tip number 3? Tip number 3, rest and play. One of the best pieces of advice I've heard has been don't quit, rest. And this is a hard one for a lot of us. Resting and playing is hard. So much to do, so many responsibilities. But I say, do it. Take a half an hour, Take an hour of Zumba dancing with a group of people. There's still lots of classes on Zoom. So if you feel worried about the gym or if you feel self-conscious, guess what? Nobody sees you. In addition to the endorphins that exercise provides. After an hour of dancing to songs like Big, Big Booty, don't laugh, that's a good song. After an hour of that, you might just loosen up a little bit. Tip number 2, put one foot in front of the other. Or in less ableist terms, maybe keep your wheels moving forward. Even if it's just a few inches. Do one thing, even a small thing, to make things better. Even if you don't know that it will have any effect or bring results. Having a lung transplant, I would say, offers one many opportunities to practice this. There have been times in my journey with transplant when things were just not improving or improving fast enough. What was the point, I thought? It helped to walk on the track at those times. That was one thing that I knew was good to do. I was literally moving forward, even in circles, didn't matter, keep moving. My best friend from high school has practiced this kind of moving forward practice for some time now. She has been raising a son with a profound developmental disability. He is devoted to Disney musicals, so she has got them down cold. She quoted to me from Finding Nemo. "Keep swimming," she said. "Keep swimming." It became my mantra. And this week, my heart was filled just hearing from members of Eliot Chapel who helped out and put on a vaccine event in Meacham Park, who went door to door with flyers. They worked with 2 other churches, the enormous Kirkwood United Methodist Church and the very, very small Church of God in Meacham Park. And they put this on. Now, when they were first talking about this, I didn't really get it. It was going to be a lot of work. And lots of vaccination events we've been hearing have been getting tiny numbers of people. Was it worth it? And Kirkwood, we have a relatively high rate of vaccination here. I am here to tell you now that I have changed on this. And I know now that yes, they matter. To have something you can do that helps, even a little bit, keeps you going, gives you hope. I see hope in the small upticks in vaccinations in St. Louis County. We are part of that hope. And in all of this, we remain the church, true to our mission of serving the world, rolling forward. So keep swimming. Do one thing. Tip number 1. And this is my top tip, so pay attention. Tip number 1, give and receive love. Give and receive love. Christopher Robin saw Pooh, the book says. Christopher Robin saw Pooh and said, "Silly old bear," in such a loving voice that everybody felt quite hopeful again. So for a week, he read a sustaining book to his poor, stuck, and hungry friend. Has someone ever done this for you? You've been in a stuck place. They can't fix it, but they've been there with you and kept you company. That is love. At probably the lowest point in recovering from transplant, that first year for me, when a series of procedures I was doing to improve my lung function and the really narrow, small airways did not seem to be working. I got caught in a story that I was going to die. It was very real. I called my sister at 4 a.m. It had been a long time since I had called my big sister to do that. And after listening to me, she said, "You need your family with you." And that next week, she flew to St. Louis. I was well enough to go out and do things with her. So for a week, we forgot about all things pulmonary. We took a cheesy bus tour of downtown. We visited the City Museum. My sister loves baseball, so I got us tickets for a cards game. Beforehand, she asked me who they were playing. So I looked up the schedule and I said, the Houston Astros, are they good? We're pretty different, she and I. And we had a ball. And right after that, things started to shift and to change. Something happened. And the procedures started to work. My lung function went up and stayed up. My sister likes to say that this happened because of her visit. For all we know, it was. So those are my tips. Practice robust whining and compassion for yourself. Practice compassion for others by praying for them insincerely if you have to. Practice gratitude. Rest and play and keep swimming. Love one another. Be there for one another, even and especially if you cannot fix things. So may it be. Amen.
Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going?
Now may the love which overcomes all differences, which heals all wounds, which puts to flight all fears, which reconciles all who are separated, be in us and among us, now and always. Amen.